Hey, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our newsletter at theproductporch.com for notifications on the latest episodes and exclusive content. Once upon a time, there were these monsters that lived in a city together.
And every day?
And every day, they would go scare children to collect screams.
Until one day,
a child comes through the door into their monster world.
and because of that,
They learn that children's laughter is more powerful than children's screams.
and ever since then,
They've now been making children happy and laughing instead of scaring.
Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. Okay.
Sorry. See
Totally
how it works?
Wow, that's cool.
Welcome to the Product Porch with Joe Golly, Todd Blacquier, and me, Ryan Cantwell. Today, we tell stories about storytelling and how you can use it to level up your product management game. Now settle in, folks, because on the Product Porch, every topic is a product topic.
Ryan,
Hey,
it's just you and I today. We've got no Joe.
I know, we're Joe absent, so we're hoping he comes back soon.
Well, you know what we are today?
Yes?
We are like an unimpressed Gomer Pyle. We're gollyless.
Gollyless. Yeah. Yeah.
We got no golly.
Nope.
There's a great reference
Yeah.
for everyone that still watches the Andy Griffith Show.
Gomer Pyle.
I looked at our metrics and I found that there's a great overlap between people who listen to us and watch Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
So, all right, Ryan. I got a different way of kicking off this podcast today.
Let's do it.
I want to tell you a story. Are you a fan of the Rolling Stones at all? You ever
Sure.
listen to the Rolling Stones?
Absolutely.
So the Rolling Stones put on this show at the LA Coliseum. People showing up to the show are wearing like leather vests and they have tattoos and they're ready for a rocking good time. And to start the show, they were introducing a new artist. He comes out and he's wearing like pink bikini bottoms. He's got a jacket on that's wide open so you can see his bare chest, and he has long flowing hair. Might have been wearing a little makeup and starts singing with the high voice. And this crowd did not take kindly to that.
Okay.
They just started throwing bottles at the stage. It was an entire riot. They had to rush him off the stage. There was booze and rioting. You know who this artist is? I know you know because I've told you the story before.
I do know. It was Prince.
It was Prince. Prince, by the way, I had a friend of mine who told me best show he's ever seen was Prince.
I bet. Yeah.
Prince is a ridiculous performing artist, like just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not the right group of people, not the right show for the right audience, right?
Right. Yeah.
I told this story once, complete with, I even played a track from the album, the hit song that was on the radio at the time.
Yeah.
I did this once in Ireland as I was doing a presentation, a product strategy presentation, like how to develop product strategy for CIOs, CTOs, CPOs of all of the portfolio companies for this PE firm.
Yes. So in a professional context.
Very professional. I even had a picture on one of the slides was an audience throwing beer bottles was a slide.
Yeah.
And I played a clip from the Prince song. That's how I opened it. I used it as my introduction for discordant development
Okay.
and all about understanding users and customers and how to prioritize, focus on outcomes, make sure you're delivering the right outcome for your audience.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what the result of that was?
I don't. Tell me.
The result of that was, well, first off, the person that came up right after me goes, so my presentation is going to be a lot more boring than this. I don't have any Prince music. So right off, he's like, it's going to be less engaging.
Yeah.
We got multiple projects out of that presentation, that one presentation.
Yeah.
So it went really well for us as a team. This is one of my favorite stories, just about storytelling in general. We've mentioned it so many times on this podcast. I think it's probably one of the most common things we say is how important storytelling is.
Probably.
But the question I had to kick off our show today is, what does that actually mean for product managers? We keep saying, like, be a storyteller. A storyteller is a superpower. Be a better, storytelling's great. So what?
Yeah. Todd, I can't wait to break this down because I heard the story you were telling me here at the top, and it's easy to think that, like, I need to be clever. I need to find things. And I don't know if that's it. I think there's more to it than that. And I can't wait to dig in with you. I think it's more accessible than people think.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. What is storytelling in the world of product?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that differ from just like, let's give some descriptions here. What's the difference between storytelling and just giving an update or providing data?
There's one thing about communicating facts. Communicating a fact would just be saying, I know this is true because I have this evidence. Telling a story builds on a why. Like it's telling the audience, engaging that audience, getting them to lean in and understand the meaning behind why you're giving the fact. Because facts can be parts of stories, but they're just one element of kind of a bigger arc.
I agree.
Yeah, that's how I think about it.
A story has some plot to it, has some thread, has characters, has an emotion behind it. What's funny is you were describing like the difference between two things. I was thinking we tell stories to our children when they're little. We tell them stories to teach them.
Yeah.
Right. We use stories to teach them. We put on little shows from the time they're little preschoolers, little shows to teach them the alphabet. We have little stories and little songs to learn the alphabet. But for some reason, I just this never ceases to amaze me. We believe that as adults, we no longer need that.
Right.
It's almost like stories are great for children, but man, for adults, even though we all spend money to go watch movies TV shows, we all
read books.
How many streaming services do we all have?
Yeah.
Books. My wife has a tower. She's building a tower of books for every book she's read this year. A big old tower of books in her room. Right. We never stop loving stories because it's such an easy way to consume information. And that to me is one of the big differences between an update of data and storytelling is how easy it is to consume.
Exactly. And this is what I'm thinking about. I'm putting the pieces together of Rotten Tomatoes exists to be critical of people who cannot tell a good story.
Yeah.
But it is only one channel of storytelling. Think about why aren't we asking business people to be better storytellers too, or even teachers in their environment, or doctors. I don't know. Like, think about how applicable and universal that could be, and how much more effective it would make us as communicators if we had it.
Why do you think this matters for product managers? So you talked about it could be useful for business people, for doctors, but why does storytelling matter for product managers?
Okay. So I think it's important for product managers because you are responsible for everything, yet have authority over no one. You have to motivate everyone else into action. And stories, I hate to say it, they're like a shortcut to help you do that. They are an easy way for you to let people know what you need them to do, why it's important for them to do, and show connections across often the very complex ecosystems of things you're working with.
That's true. And it's a way to engage them. I actually wrote a list. You ready? So I'm going to hit you with my list. This is my list of product management storytelling use cases.
Oh God. Okay.
And I want you to you fill in the blanks because you might think of other things. Let's see.
Okay.
So here's my list. So first off, inspiring teams and stakeholders with a clear vision. So vision and strategy. Right. If you can tell a good story, you can inspire teams. You can inspire stakeholders. Roadmap narratives.
Yep.
So rather than just saying, here's a bunch of stuff on a timeline, being able to tell a story of what are we trying to accomplish and how does this help us get there? User stories and journeys, right? Telling stories of real customers to build empathy.
Yep.
Problem framing. There's something I mention all the time. There's a use. Explain the problem in a story. Tell me who the person is, the human, and their lived experience, rather than some abstract metric or just a fact or data. Just tell me the story of this human. I got a few more.
Keep going.
Change management.
Yes.
Change management's a big one. Tell the story of the transitions. Frame the change as a story with purpose, as opposed to, we're no longer doing this process. We're now doing that process.
Doing this one. Yeah.
Here's your new list of crap to do. Design and discovery. right? I use storytelling all the time in discovery. It's great. You know, the easiest way when you sit down with an executive and you're trying to learn if your concept has legs or if they're dealing with the problem you have, a great way of doing that is tell a story. I want to tell you a story about an executive like you. And this is what I've done this so many times. This is what they're experiencing. They're trying to achieve this goal. Oh, but they have this problem in their way. Oh, fortunately, they come upon the solution and it does this for them. And I tell the story. I literally do. I will even you've seen me do it. I will even make little storybook characters and make it like a Dick and Jane book. And I'll tell them. And at first, the first time I did that, I thought, okay, Todd, this is a little silly. This is so simple. But man, they love it. I'm speaking to people who have salaries double mine and they are eating it up. And really quickly, I'm learning where I'm on track and I'm off track. Okay, I give you a bunch. Did I miss any other that come to mind as like good storytelling use cases?
Use cases, motivating your sales team, getting them to understand who that person is they're trying to sell to and why they should care or what pains they experience and how you can help make them the hero. Like you can send them on that journey. So with your sales team, you can your marketing team very similarly. Who are you talking to? Getting them to understand this is the audience and they need to understand how this happens and the benefits that they can receive. So working with those very commercial stakeholders. What about as you're even developing things that might typically be cold, like your spec sheet, your website copy, you're working with other teams that are looking for those inputs? Go tell a story about who's going to be reading it and why they can get excited about it.
I have found engineering teams respond better to that. I mean, look, we respond better to that. We call it user stories for a reason.
Yeah,
I find they respond better when I'm able to say, don't read any of this yet. Don't worry about that. Let me just tell you the story. Here's what's happening. Here's why this is important. And sometimes I'm telling the story of the business. Here's where we want to go. Mm-hmm. Here's what we want to accomplish. But these things are in our way. We got to do this to accomplish that. So here's how I feel like this is going to help us move forward. It might be that, or it might be the customer story. Let me tell you about what's happening on their side. And that I find engineers will latch onto, and it generates great ideas when they're able to hear the story and empathize.
Yeah, absolutely. Because empathy is a key word there. If you can get them to connect with the right element of your story, and this is a big part of stories, Todd, emotional connection. People, it's easier to communicate on an emotional level. People understand that more than just words and data. So you can think about it that way.
And why couldn't you do that? Why couldn't you do that with your customers who are humans, who are experiencing real pains in real life? These are people who have jobs and lives and troubles. Why can't you make that emotionally impactful?
Exactly. So we're talking about all this stuff, Todd. And you kind of asked the question a little bit earlier, but I want to hear your take. Is this truly a soft skill, or can you learn to be a good storyteller?
What's funny? Well, first off, I love the way you said it. Can you learn to be a good storyteller? Because yes, you can. But if you had asked me, is this a soft skill? Even, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said yes. And the reason I would have said yes is probably back to what Nils Davis said about your obvious is your art.
Oh,
I would have thought, well, I have a lot of natural, so I would have felt like, it's just a thing you do.
Yeah.
But what's funny is as I've progressed in my career over the last few years, I've noticed all the different ways I'm using storytelling constantly on an everyday basis in my writing, in my speaking, in my presentations. And then also I had the realization, I mean, maybe it's not my obvious, maybe it's not my art, because I had the realization I've been trained in storytelling multiple times over. When I was a kid, I used to act in movies and then I did theater, and then I actually learned how to write scripts. In school, I took film classes and I took theater classes, and I learned how to construct a story and write a story. And then when I created my own business, I created a creative media company where that's what we did. We built for our customers. We built stories, created videos. And so I practiced that muscle all the time. And then when I was a director of marketing, one of the things I got to participate in a training at Duarte about presentations. They make a lot of really big presentations, some of those even for TED Talks and things like that, where they talked about how to create a great presentation. So this realization I had was, I mean, I can't pat myself on the back and say, Todd, you're just so naturally great at storytelling. I have been trained for decades on storytelling. And so it is definitely a skill you can learn and one that I think people should.
I agree. It can be learned. This is a skill that you can develop. It just takes practice, just like exercise. Go get your reps, try it out, figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because not everybody's going to be able to use the same structures and narrative styles and those sort of things. Be curious and try things. I mean, that's a very product behavior, right? Be curious and try things. You can do that with storytelling too.
Be curious and try. But I like what you said. Not everyone has to use the same structure.
Yeah.
But structure matters.
Aha.
That's the great thing about storytelling. Structure does matter. I mean, look, there's a reason why you can watch a movie, a romantic comedy. My best friend and I did this one time. We went to our friend's house and they were watching a movie. I can't even remember what it was. It was about a woman who falls in love with a ghost or something. I can't remember. It's something silly, so silly. Or the man falls in love with a ghost. I don't remember. There's a ghost. But we're watching this silly movie and my friend and I are both bored to tears. And we're in a group of like 15 of us in this house. And we kept calling all the beats of the movie. And it was infuriating some of the women in the room. They were getting so mad at us. And they're like, you guys already saw this. No, I've just seen a few romantic comedies before. Because we would say things like, and here's where someone says something innocuous, but it becomes a problem. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Oh, here's where they realize that it was all a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, because that's how they all go. But there's a reason why. Because we like structure.
We do.
We like formula.
So what makes a good story? Like how would you define what a effective story looks like?
Let's do this. Right at the top, tell me some of your favorite stories. It could be a movie, a book, or whatever, but what are some of your favorite stories?
My favorite stories, holy smokes. How long do you have? I mean, some of my two favorites, and this is very cliche, but Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Like,
I mean, they're both awesome.
Both of them are very hero's journey. If you were to
they're
use
both hero's journey stories.
Yeah.
There's a clear goal. What is the goal of the first Star Wars? Save the princess. We saved the princess. Well, now what?
Destroy
there's a bad guy. We got to destroy the Death Star.
The Death Star.
Right?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. What do we got to get this ring?
Destroy the ring.
Got to destroy this ring.
Yeah.
Destroy the ring. You got to destroy something.
Right.
But there's a clear goal.
Right.
And there's a clear thing. And the challenge looks big and ominous.
Yeah.
There's this underdog that has to overcome it. So this emotional tension.
That's right. You mentioned it earlier, Todd. And there are, I think, 3 base elements of a good story. Always. Like these exist. There is always a character. You got to have somebody. There is always a conflict. And often for us as product people, that conflict, our character is who we serve. The conflict is the problem they experience. And there's a resolution. And that's our solution, how we bring it to a resolution. But those 3 base elements are pretty universal.
We've told a lot of movie stories.
Yeah.
Do you have a product story example that you've told in your career about a character who has a conflict and then that conflict is resolved through some story?
Oh, yes.
Or through some resolution.
Yes. So as I've mentioned before, I worked in industrial health and safety with detectors that would detect hazardous atmosphere. So there were real situations where, think about somebody would go in like a manhole, like a confined space.
Yeah.
And they didn't know, they thought it was clear of hazard, but they'd go in, they'd be overcome by hazardous atmosphere and they'd go down. So you have these workers that are putting themselves in harm's way. This worker, they have procedures. They're filling out their work permit. They're evacuating, trying to ventilate the space. They're going through the steps. And they know that this is kind of a dangerous job. They have a pal there with them too, that person is called a whole watch. So there's two of them. They have a partner. So they do all their work. They feel ready to go. Person goes in the hole. He goes down. He's unconscious, laying in the bottom of a hole. What do you think his pal does? He sees his friend in harm's way. He goes down to get him. What do you think happens? He goes down too. So that is the tragedy of the would-be rescuer.
Oh my gosh.
So you've got the situation, and so how do you help these people? Well, we put a mesh network antenna in our device so the detectors would communicate with one another. So the person would say, so the whole watch would get an alarm when person 1 went down. Person 2 would see it and say, hey, they're in trouble. Maybe it was dark in there and they couldn't see. They're down, and this is the hazard. Go get your SCBA so you can help them. So you can prepare yourself. And you know what that does?
Right.
Saves lives. We saved more lives. That's why you need our product.
That's amazing. That's remarkable. I got lost in your story. I forgot that we were doing a podcast. I was engaged fully. And I actually thought about my friend who had someone pass out in a tanker.
Yeah.
And was smart enough not to go down in there to get him. Had he done, and that person unfortunately lost their life. My friend would have lost his life too had he gone down in to get him. Anyway, very real thing. But to your point, like that's an amazing product story. And I think sometimes we feel like, well, that's obvious. I mean, Ryan's story is like life or death. And sometimes my product isn't life or death. It's true. You know, I did video apps and it wasn't life or death. Like they didn't get to watch their show. No, it's okay. But still you could still tell a good story to get them to empathize with their user.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a very quick one. I've used this example in some of my other engagements, but Todd, maybe you can help me with it. You mentioned Fun with Dick and Jane, like that format.
Yeah.
So I learned this from you. So I want everybody to meet Pat, the product manager. So Pat is frustrated because Pat cannot motivate their boss to say, hey, I have this idea I want to try. I want to go and experiment. Pat's frustrated. They just keep getting fire after fire and they can't work their way through it and they can't find the time and the space, and their boss is looking at him saying, you need to be more strategic, but Pat wants to go do cool things like experiments and they can't. So Pat's really frustrated. So Pat's boss, we'll call him Billy the boss. Pat needs to go convince him. So Pat tries to find some solutions, and they say, you know what? I found a way that you and me, boss, need to learn how to be more outcome focused, not output focused. We need to do this together. So Pat tells a story to Billy. Pat tells him how focusing on outcomes will help them prioritize work more effectively. It'll help align the organization. It'll help them do the things that'll help Pat be more strategic and Billy the boss to achieve his goals too. So in the end, Billy agrees, allows Pat to become more outcome focused, align, and Billy helps support Pat. Pat's able to run some experiments. They become more strategic. And in the end, they live in a new world. It's a brave new product world for Pat and Billy. They're sat there together. Look at that. It doesn't have to be life and death. It can be just like normal frustration as you look at it.
As long as people can, as long as someone can empathize and relate to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like the reason I like the Dick and Jane structure is because it's very simple. I think sometimes we distract from our storytelling because we try to be too clever.
Yeah.
You know, the 3 C's: clarity, conciseness, and caring.
Oh, I love that.
Be clear, be concise. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine who was doing a great job telling the story about why we need data in some areas in healthcare. And he used the example of cheddar versus Swiss. And he would say, hey, cheddar cheese, right? Robust and thick, but PHI, patient health information, is more like Swiss cheese. There's holes all over the place. And so we don't have the dense information we need because we got all these holes. It was a good story, but then he started getting fancy with it.
Oh, no.
And he started using different terminology. It was like Gruyere and some other Swiss that I've never heard of. And he'd use these things. and everyone was lost, and I could see people get lost by the new description, but it was because it was too clever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like Dick and Jane because see Dick do this, see Jane do that.
Right.
Just make it nice and simple and direct. You mentioned hero's journey and gave some examples of the hero journey's spine. Are there any other types of stories or story methodology that you think someone could learn? Any framework someone could learn to tell a good story?
Yeah, and for any of these, I just want to let anybody know, if you simply search for any of these frameworks that I think we're going to talk about, Todd, you will find a wealth of information on them. In fact, I love learning from other disciplines, and most of these I have found from screenwriters, people who write novels, things like that. You also mentioned Nancy Duarte. Check her out; she's awesome.
Well, I'll share one. I mean, since you mentioned her, Nancy Duarte. Like I said, I got to go to one of her trainings and learn from her. It was fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah.
She does this thing where she uses what is versus what could be. And I've used this so many times now in my presentations. You start with what is, paint a clear picture of the current reality and its struggles and limitations. And then you contrast with the vision of what could be.
Yeah.
The ordinary world, what could be. And you keep going back and forth to build that tension. And then at the end, you have that call to action to what could be. Two examples that she uses, and I'm just telling you this is from her books, but two examples she uses of that is Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech.
Yep.
If you go listen to it, you can mark it. What is, what could be, what is, what could be. And the other is Steve Jobs when he did the first iPhone announcement. Same thing. What is, what could be, what is. So you can use every two very different use cases, right?
Absolutely. So another one that I find myself using quite often as well is something called the story spine. And it came from Pixar. So the Pixar movie framework that they started to develop. So I'll just run through it quickly of the elements. There's 5 elements that help you build your narrative. The first is once upon a time, where you introduce the listener to the character by describing what is their status quo. Like this. So it's kind of like Nancy, right? What is?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you talk about and every day and add context. You provide a setting and an introduction to the problem they face. Aha. Until one day is the next part. So you need a change that disrupts the status quo, which is where you can enter the picture, perhaps with your resolution. And then you move to, because of that, how you can help them. And you're speaking in terms of benefit here, not features. Save lives, not because it has mesh network. That's the difference, right? The benefit.
Yeah.
And ever since then, describe how their status quo has changed for the better. They live in a new world now. They see things differently. So that's the story.
Give me each one of those. I'm going to try something really quick. Yeah. Give me each one of those again. The first one is Once upon a time. Once upon a time, there were these monsters that lived in a city together.
And every day
they would go scare children to collect screams.
Until one day,
a child comes through the door into their monster world.
And because of that,
I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to learn something. I don't remember. But because of that, they learn that children's laughter is more powerful than children's screams.
And ever since then,
they've now been making children happy and laughing instead of scaring them.
Monsters, Inc.
Okay.
Sorry. See how it works?
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you know what's funny? And this goes back, I'll just reiterate the point. Like, frameworks help. I've said my favorite problem statement framework before. Mm-hmm. It really helps when you can, in your mind, go, okay, what are the steps again? So you can pick one.
Rattle them off real quick, Todd. Problem framing steps. I
am who is trying to because.
Oh, I thought it was but because. I am trying
because who, which makes me feel something.
Yep. Yeah.
And I can usually do that. Yeah. Off the top, but I think any kind of framework, I mean, pick one, but that would be a great thing is just pick one of these and try it. I'm going to try the Pixar one now. Now that you said that, I'm like, I'm going to try that in a meeting. I'm going to do that in a meeting at some point in the next week.
Right. Another one I like, Todd, is called the promise, progress, payoff framework.
Ooh, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, 3 things, very simple, right? Make a bold statement, the promise that addresses a particular problem. And here's where you can focus on outcomes, results, and impacts, make a difference. You show progress on how you're helping solve that problem, breaking things down from the user's perspective into steps and how you are helping them progress towards the problem, and then a payoff. Highlight the ultimate benefit or result that users can expect to receive from your product. It's a very simple framework, but it can be effective.
I love it. I think we've spent a lot of time talking now about how, like, honestly, design of a story.
Yeah.
It really feels like we're talking about how to design a story. Designing a story and telling a story are 2 different things.
Ooh, yes. Okay.
So let's talk about that, because I think sometimes we feel like we can just stop at the design of the story and it would speak for itself. And I've seen people in rooms tell a good story by their slideware and by their words, but still not capture the room.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this happen just the other day. So maybe we talk about that. Maybe we talk a little bit about, like, what are some things that go wrong in telling a story? Like, what are some misses people have? How do we do it the right way? How do we learn how to do it the right way?
I think a big part of being effective here is knowing your audience.
Yeah.
Understanding what's going to resonate with them. Because I mean, I couldn't walk into a room full of school children and talk about outcomes over outputs. They would be like, what? Product market fit.
Yeah.
But I mean, kind of knowing what their interests are. And then there's the passive preparation element, and there's the active element, where if you see them leaning in, you know to turn it up a little bit. If you see people leaning back, and I mean both figuratively and literally, we've been lean in and lean back, where you might need to be a little more improvisational. It's that active element. That is a skill that takes a lot of practice. It's just, you need reps. Like, don't be discouraged. If you go say, Ryan, I tried to tell a story, I failed miserably. I say, good, go do it again. Now you know what not to do.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what not to do. It's a great point. You know, one of the things you have to tell a good story, and this is something I will practice mine. So depending on what the situation is, but if it's a big high stakes situation, a big client, it's a presentation to the board, I guarantee I'm going to practice it over and over again. Because when I do that, it's kind of like a comedian. You hear about comedians, some of the great ones, especially like Jerry Seinfeld, knows the phrasing that works versus the phrasing that doesn't.
Yeah.
He's meticulous about how he phrases certain things. And I have found that when you tell the story a lot to yourself, you will begin to feel that. You're like, oh, that was too long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to cut that out. Oh, that was unnecessary. Okay. Ooh, that new way I just said it, that worked. I tell those stories to my wife. I mean, she is ever enduring. I don't know, long suffering, but I will tell these stories to her because I want it to roll off the tip of my tongue. And to your point about reading the room, I can adjust if I need to.
Yeah.
If they're eating it up and I'm like, ooh, I can expound a little bit. I can expound. But if it's like, ooh, it's not connecting, I got to move this along, I can cut because I know the story so well.
And not only that, I find as you get better at this, I think a comedian's a great example because it really, they work at their sets. I mean, they beat them to submission until they are happy with it. It takes so much time. And knowing when to even engage the audience, not just with your story, but to even ask a simple question, like, what do you think happens next? Like, get them thinking. And has anyone here ever experienced or seen anything like this? It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember I talked to a user once and they did something like that. So there's a little bit of interaction that you can start to inject to make it them more active participants in your story, which I think can work too.
I agree with that. Mm-hmm. That's something that's different, right? Different from when you're just telling a story. You can make it interactive.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who do it best have a good question placed somewhere in there that engages and pulls people back in.
Right.
Another part of being a good storyteller. Nancy Duarte said this about Steve Jobs.
Uh-huh.
Steve Jobs marvels at his own ideas. He does.
He's modeling behavior.
He's telling you how to react.
Yeah.
Now, I saw this done by a creative director at a nonprofit I worked for. He was a young kid, and we were in a room together, and we were pitching ideas and stuff. But what I watched him do over and over again is he gets so excited by his idea. And he would tell it with such joy and excitement that it was infectious.
Todd, that's my whole shtick. Be enthusiastic. That's my whole shtick.
That's your whole
Be
shtick?
enthusiastic.
Be enthusiastic. If you got nothing, be enthusiastic. But you know what? What's funny is I've seen it in myself. I've seen it times when I do the thing of presenting an idea and I go, you know what? That's not a good idea. I'll just say it, but it's probably not good. I've already killed the idea myself.
Mm-hmm.
But when instead I go, you know what? Hey, da-da-da-da-da, and I get excited about it, you can do that. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and just sell all your ideas if they're all great, even if they're not, but give your idea a chance. So when you tell a story, I liked what you said, model the behavior, show them how they should react, get excited by the parts that are supposed to be exciting.
Absolutely. Some people are more naturally predisposed to be storytellers than others. And if this is something that doesn't come as naturally to you, practice. And you can do it like Todd was talking about his wife. He was kind of giving her, oh, my poor wife. But whether it's even talking to yourself in a context like record yourself for a little bit, like, hey, I want to tell this story, or a trusted colleague or friend to say, hey, I want to run something by you. Those are opportunities. Even, holy smokes, like I have my kids, I say they're young, but they're getting older. They're not as young anymore. But even when I'm communicating with them, like think about even in a social setting.
I'm going to give something away about myself. Probably shouldn't say this in a situation where I'm being recorded. But I do that with work conversations. I will have them over in my head over and over again to make my point in the clearest way I can before I actually present it.
Yeah.
And I will make it sound as if it's brand new. So when presenting it to my boss or something, I'll say, you know what? I just had a thought. Da-da-da-da-da. The truth is I haven't had a thought. I've thought about it 18 times over the last week, but I figured out how to say it well.
Yeah.
And so now I'm using it.
Right.
The other thing I found about storytelling that helps me craft a good story is I will tell it to multiple people. I just told one today to our CTO, that I had told to our CRO, that I had told to our CFO, that I had told to our COO. And I tell it to each of them. And it's almost like practice for me. It's finding out where people are resonating, where it's working. And it's me trying to find, does this connect? And once I find it connects, I'm like, okay, now it's ready. I've said it 5 or 6 times and I figured out how to say it right. And I think it connects. And now I can say it to whatever group I need to say it to.
All right, Todd, what do you say? Are we ready for some key takeaways?
All right. My key takeaway is go on YouTube. Pick one of the elements that we said, one of the frameworks, hero's journey, story spine, whatever method it is, go on YouTube and learn it. Just learn the steps. This is the steps of the story.
Yeah. Very similarly to that, I'm going to be a little more direct and say, pick a Slack message, a Teams message, an email. I don't care. Like written form will give you more space than to try to think quickly. Start there.
I like that.
Then write your message. Don't even think about a story. Just write your message. Before you press send, go to your AI of choice. Say, I would like to try to structure this using one of the models that we talked about here. Hero's journey, promise, progress, payoff, story spine. I don't care which, but turn this into a narrative story. And it's going to start to teach you how your own words can be structured in more of a narrative style format. So, and you're going to find as time goes on, you'll become less reliant on AI as a crutch there. It'll just start happening.
It's like, I tell my kids all the time, I have a son who wants to be a filmmaker. And I told them, I said, do you know how to become a filmmaker? Do you know what the most important thing is to become a filmmaker? Go make films.
Just do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Go make movies. Grab your camera, film something. I don't care what it is. Film it, edit it, learn what's working and learn what's not.
Yeah.
I like your what you said there, because go tell stories. Go try it.
Right.
It's the only way you learn how to do it well.
Stories are fun.
Stories are fun. Let's have a good time.
They're fun. Yeah. Let's do it.
Well, this has been fun. It's been fun telling stories with you. Really enjoyed it.
I could talk about this stuff forever. Like, I could keep going.
This is so fun. I thought about 5 different things I left out of this conversation.
I know.
But we'll have to keep talking about it.
Absolutely.
All right, man. It was great seeing you tonight, Ryan.
It's always a good time. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Blockier for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.